Luke chapter 10. Now it happened as they went that he entered a certain village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister named Mary, who also sat at Jesus' feet and heard his word. But Martha was distracted with much serving. So she approached him and said, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work alone? Therefore tell her to help me. Jesus answered and said to her, Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled about many things, but one thing is needed, and Mary has chosen the good part. You know, my parents and grandparents were tobacco farmers, among other things, and most of my childhood was spent either in tobacco fields or around the barns. And when I was probably 5 years old, I remember one day I was too young to go out into the fields yet, so my cousins and I would just play while the women worked around the barns and the men worked in the fields. Well, they brought a tractor in full of leaves, tobacco leaves, exchanged that for an empty trailer and started heading back to the fields. Well, I saw something on the ground that I thought they needed. So I hollered for them to stop, but they didn't hear me because of the tractor. So I started running after them so I could give it to them. But I had to run downhill to try to catch them. So my feet got away from me, and I was running so fast, I actually ran into a barn. My head hit the corner of the barn and knocked myself out. I remember waking up a few minutes later crying with a big knot on my head, and I was upset because nobody saw me or came to help me. But the point is, I was running so fast, I couldn't see where I was going. How many of you feel like life is the same way? You are just running so fast that you can't see where you're going. I mean, you're running and running and running every day, just trying to pay bills, just trying to save enough money to take that next vacation, to buy clothes for the children, to buy some more shoes for the children, to get them in the next best school, to get them in college. You know, you try to save some money for retirement. You're just running, and life is getting away from you. It may seem like I'm jumping around a little bit, but you know, when you shoot a bow and arrow, in order to launch the arrow, you have to first pull it backwards. And as you pull it backwards, the tension increases and gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And finally, you release it and let it go, and it flies straight to the target. Well, the first few verses in Psalm 91 says, He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. My God, in Him shall I trust. You see, sometimes in life we're running so fast, we just need to stop. Just stop and be still for a moment. Just like that bow and arrow, you know, if you want to be launched into the future, you want to fly straight to your next target, sometimes you need to retreat a little bit. You need to go backwards. Now, I don't mean retreating as in giving up and not doing anything. You know, I'm making this video right now in February of 2021. There's snow on the ground. There's ice out. And you know, I used to love ice storms. I loved it when electricity went out, as a matter of fact, because when that happens, we as a family draw closer together. You know, we've got one little light in the house, or maybe two lights. We get close to the heaters. We actually sit still and play checkers or tic-tac-toe or something. We draw close to each other, and that time's needed. Again, Psalm 91 says, He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. You see, in order to have a refuge, you have to retreat. But in this case, retreating isn't a sign of surrender. As a matter of fact, it's quite the opposite. It's stepping backwards to gain strength, because when you step under the shadow of the Almighty, when you rest under Him, when you take refuge under Him, you gain strength. Just like I talked about in a previous video, when King David was troubled, when everybody was after him because their wives and children and servants were taken captive, this is just before he became king, you know, they wanted to stone David. They wanted to kill him because of what happened. And what did the scripture say? It said that David strengthened himself in the Lord. See what he done? He stepped back for a little while. He stepped back. He sat still. He concentrated on the scriptures and in prayer and on the promises that God had given him. He retreated backwards, but not in surrender, but to gain strength. So today's message, today's video is not really to give you anything deep. It's just to remind you and to encourage you that when you're running and running and running and you just feel lost and you don't know where you're going, just to stop for a moment. Just stop. Retreat. Retreat. Not surrendering, giving up, but retreat backwards under the shadow of the Almighty. Back up under Him. Let Him become your refuge. Take a few moments, take a few days, take a week. I mean, seriously, what do you have to lose? In the scriptures that I just read, there were two women, Mary and Martha. Martha was busy serving Jesus. She was busy sweeping floors, trying to make her house look pretty. She was fixing dinner, bringing him refreshments, I mean, she was doing all the right things. There was nothing wrong with that. But what was Mary doing? Mary was just sitting there, sitting at his feet, soaking up his presence. So, who will you choose to be this week? Will you choose to be a Martha, rushing about, doing the work of the kingdom even? Doing the work, taking care of your family, taking care of your employer? Or will you choose to retreat and be a Mary and just sit at Jesus' feet for a little while, soaking up His presence, soaking up His word, and gaining strength? Who will you choose to be this week? Now I'm going to leave you with that thought. You guys have a blessed day, and I'll see you next time.